back to the Daily Grind. Thanks for checking out the channel. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back pickle biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
And it's time for the UFC Austin Fox Sports 1 Fight Night predictions. The main event, of course, is going to be between Donald Cowboy Cerrone and Yancy Medeiros. Hell of a fight. Co-main event, of course, between two top-ranked heavyweights, Derek Lewis swinging bang versus Marcin Tybura. And of course, we're in Texas, so Donald Cerrone and Derek Lewis will have the home crowd on their side. But we're going to start at the other side of the main card, and I'm going to give you an extra prediction as well, because one of the fights on the main card, it was a female, I don't know what division, it was a female fight between two newer chicks in the UFC. I don't know their names off the top of my head, but the fight was canceled anyway. So with that being said, I'm going to give you the prediction between Flash Gordon and Cesar Ferreira, which is actually going to be a super dope fight, but I just included that into these predictions. So let's start though with the first fight of the main card between Sage Northcutt and T-Bolt Goody. I don't know much about T-Bolt Goody, except for he's 1-3 in the UFC. He's coming off of a first-round KO TKO over Andrew Holbrook after losing his first 3 UFC fights. Now he's going to be fighting Sage Northcutt. T-Bolt Goody, though, real quick, is 11-3 overall. So he's 1-3 in the UFC, but he's 11-3 overall. He signed with the UFC when he was 10-0, took 3 straight losses, and then picked up 1 win. So he's going to be fighting Sage Northcutt, who's 9-2 overall. So less experienced overall is Sage Northcutt, but Super Saiyan Sage Northcutt, or just Super Sage Northcutt, has more UFC experience. Excuse me. So Sage Northcutt, a lot of, very popular fighter, up and coming. He's got a loss to Mickey Gall, pretty popular loss, but and a pretty recent loss. But since then, he's actually coming off of a unanimous decision win over Michael Quinones. So with that being said, I'm gonna be picking Sage Northcutt to get this W. I mean, come on, Super Saiyan Sage Northcutt, and he's fighting a guy that not many of us know, and also entered the UFC on a 3-fight losing streak, but he's still coming off of a first-round KO win. So Sage Northcutt's been, working on his game. Took a little bit of time off, in between his. I mean, of course, he's got the win over Michael Quinones, but he's been taking his time. We've seen him training with a lot of other fighters. Team Alpha Male recently with Tyron Woodley for a while. But either way, I'm picking Sage Northcutt to get the W, and start his streaking. I don't want to say he's going to go on a crazy win streak, but Sage Northcutt has a very bright future in the UFC, and I believe it's going to start. It started with Michael Quinones, of course, but T-Bolt Goody, I think, is going to be another stepping stone for Sage Northcutt to get back on the winning track, where I think, he's going to become a big star in the UFC. He's got the fucking blonde spiky hair. His name is Super Sage Northcutt. He looks like a real-life Super Saiyan. Come on, dog. I got Sage Northcutt. Now, next fight I'm going to be doing is Jared Gordon versus Diego Ferreira, not Cesar Ferreira. Wrong Ferreira. With that being said, Diego Ferreira is 12-2, 3-2 in the UFC. It's his first fight back, though, since a win over Olivier Albin Mercier, OAM. This will be Diego's first fight back since a win over OAM 2 years ago, January of 2016. So it's January of 2018. So Diego took 2 years off. I'm not sure the reason. Could have been injury, could have been personal, but this will be Diego's first fight back in 2 years, and he's going to be fighting Jared Gordon, who's been dominating his UFC opponents in 2017. Jared Gordon is 14-1 overall, 2-0 in the UFC. He's dominated both of his UFC fights in 2017 over Michael Quinones and Akron Diaz. So I'm going to be picking Jared Gordon to get this win, just because he's streaking, looking dominant, and he's fighting against a guy that's coming off of a 2-year layoff. So Jared Gordon, and that's probably, I don't know the odds on these fights yet, but he's probably going to be a pretty heavy favorite, I would assume. And if not, he might be worth betting some money on. Now, Curtis, I don't want to say Curtis Melinder if that's not his name. Yeah, Curtis Melinder versus Thiago Alves. Curtis Melinder's making his UFC debut. He's 14-3 overall. This is his first fight in the UFC. Curtis Melinder is coming to the UFC on a 6-fight winning streak. His most recent 3 wins were coming versus high-level opponents in the LFA after earning a second-round TKO at Bellator 170 Sonnen versus Ortiz. So this guy's fought in the LFA, Bellator, and the UFC. Those are the 3 top organizations. I mean, aside from the World Series of Fighting, but the LFA is like the UFC feeder league. So he won 3 straight fights in the LFA. Now he's in, after winning a fight at Bellator, now he's in the UFC. Curtis Millender, you know, he's 14-3, so he's not the most experienced fighter, and he's 30 years old, so he's not super experienced for his age, but he's been active recently, and he's also fought in the high, you know, he fought in Bellator before, earlier in his career, and it didn't go super successful. He lost twice via submission, but that was earlier in his career. Since then, for one, he's been winning, and, you know, he's never been finished. He's only lost 1 decision, and then those 2 submissions in his 8th and 9th professional fights. And Curtis Millender's going to be fighting Thiago Alves. Thiago Alves is a lot more experienced. Thiago Alves is 27-11 overall, so he's got almost 40 professional fights. But and he's also got a lot of UFC experience. Thiago Alves, 14-8. But Thiago Alves' only win since, you know, since Carlos Condit, he fought Carlos Condit. Thiago Alves did after USADA. But his only win came versus a now retired Patrick Cote. So Thiago Alves is very experienced, been around for a long time, but as of late, he hasn't been fighting the highest level guys. On top of, since USADA came into the picture, Thiago Alves, you know, he's never had a doping violation to my knowledge, but his body has notably changed since USADA came into play. And also, you know, you can look it up now. There's different side-by-sides. Thiago Alves used to be fucking jacked. You know what I'm saying? It's just a fact. Jacked. But with that being said, he's going to be fighting Curtis Millender. I'm going to be picking Curtis Millender to get the win here. Thiago Alves' only win is versus a now retired, as I said, Patrick Cote. He lost to Carlos Condit in 1 other fight. Since then, he's 1-2 in his last 3 fights. Alves is an experienced UFC veteran. Thiago Alves is, and he, as I said, he's never been flagged by USADA. But, you know, Curtis Millender's coming up, 6-fight winning streak, he's streaking. And so I'm just picking Curtis Millender. A lot of people don't know who he is because he hasn't fought in the UFC yet. You see, they don't even have his picture yet. But I think he's going to get the win here, man. Go to 7-0, and then maybe, I don't think, now don't get me wrong, I don't think Curtis Millender's about to come into the UFC and be a world beater and just beat all the top UFC guys, but I do think he has what it takes to get the job done versus Thiago Alves, because Curtis Millender's definitely not a scrub making his UFC debut. Now we get into the really good fights of the night, in my opinion. Holy smokes, this is going to be a great fight. James Vick versus Francisco Trinaldo. When I first went into this fight, I actually thought I was going to be picking James Vick before I did my research for the actual predictions. James Vick's been talking a lot on the MMA hour. He's been pissed off, saying everybody's turning him down and stuff like that. And it's interesting. He's now in the top 12 ranked, you know, people. And I mean, it is what it is. You can take what you want from James Vick's trash talk. He said now, like everyone, he said Kevin Lee turned him down 3 times and wouldn't dare take a fight with him. I don't think that's the case. I believe whenever James Vick was wanting to fight Kevin Lee, it was when James Vick was unranked and Kevin Lee was ranked. Now that James Vick is ranked and people are like, okay, now that you're ranked, I'll fight you. He's like, nah, I used to try and fight you when I was unranked. But it is what it is, you know. James Vick, I don't, you know, he's from Texas. You can tell from his talk, you know, he kind of has like that southern accent a little bit to his draw, so it's not surprising that he's going to be on this Texas card. He wanted to be the main event over Cowboy. I believe he was calling out Donald Cowboy Cerrone and Yancy Medeiros. He had a lot of gripes coming into this fight, James Vick did. And you know, so all of his talk and stuff, it was before I did my research. I was like, okay, this guy's coming with something to prove. So I'm probably going to pick James Vick. But now I've did my research, and I got to say, I changed my pick. So let's get into why. Francisco Trinaldo is the number 14th ranked lightweight in the world. I was going to say welterweight because James Vick he said he would have fought either Donald Cerrone or Yancy at welterweight. But these guys are going to be fighting at lightweight. Francisco Trinaldo's 22-5. 12-4 in the UFC, and he's 39 years old, but do not let Francisco Trinaldo's age fool you. Kind of like Yoel Romero, he's been beating fucking high-level dudes at this age actively. Francisco Trinaldo's been fighting like 3 times a year, you know, in the last 3 years, and he's 39 years old. He's been whooping ass. Francisco Trinaldo's definitely nothing to fuck with. He's 8-1 in his last 9 fights with notable wins over Jim Miller, Paul Felder, Yancy Medeiros, and Ross Pearson. Francisco Trinaldo only lost in his last 9 fights came to Kevin Lee. Now, James Vick's only professional loss came via first-round KO to Beneil Dariush, who's more known for his jiu-jitsu, but was definitely, outstruck James Vick in that fight. I believe he outstruck him 41 to like 10, and then got the KO. So Beneil Dariush finished James Vick. That was his only professional loss, but James Vick does have notable wins over Joe Duffy, Marco Polo Reyes, and Abel Trujillo. Now, you might think those names that I just mentioned are not as high level as Jim Miller, Paul Felder, Yancy Medeiros, and Ross Pearson, which is the competition Francisco Trinaldo's been fighting, and that's part of the reason I gotta pick Francisco Trinaldo. Francisco Trinaldo never ceases to amaze me. At 39 years old, he's only lost one of his last 9 fights. In the last 3 years, he's been active, beating high-level lightweights, but James Vick is riding a 3-fight winning streak. James Vick is also younger and the longer fighter, and I wouldn't be surprised if James Vick, the younger, longer fighter, is able to get the win at home, and he's at home. But he's never fought anybody on Francisco Trinaldo's level, so I've got to pick Francisco Trinaldo, and I know that he might even be the underdog coming into the fight because Francisco's ranked, I believe, lower. Yeah, Francisco's ranked 2 spots under James Vick, and he doesn't have age on his side. There's a lot of reasons people might pick James Vick in this fight, and anybody can win. Flip a coin, and you'll probably get the prediction right. But I'm giving the nod to Francisco Trinaldo. The only thing holding me back a little bit is his age, but he's the age. Really, if you've just seen Francisco Trinaldo's last 5 or 6 fights, that wouldn't even concern you because he's been beaten smashed. So I'm picking Francisco Trinaldo. I've picked against him before and I've been wrong. I'm not going to do that this time, but James Vick can definitely get the job done. He's going to have a chip on his shoulder and be at home, the younger, longer fighter. Going to be a great fight. Now let's get to the co-main event of the night. Number 8th ranked Marcin Tybura in the heavyweight division, 16-3 overall, 3-2 in the UFC. Number 6th ranked Derek Lewis, 18-5 overall, 9-3 in the UFC. More UFC experience by Derek Lewis, who's also at home, the Black Beast, swing and bang, 6th ranked heavyweight. Now Marcin Tybura, he was on a 3-fight winning streak before losing to Fabricio Verdun, who took that fight on short notice after Mark Hunt was pulled from the fight. Marcin Tybura's most notable UFC win came to Andrei Arlovski via unanimous decision, I believe in June of last year. He was one of the only people that wasn't able to put Arlovski away, of course, aside from Albini, who lost to Arlovski. Arlovski, though, is a heavyweight legend, so, he's a good test for a lot of these guys. Marcin Tybura passed the test, but he did not finish Arlovski for whatever that's worth. Derek Lewis, though, 6-1 in his last 7 heavyweight fights in the UFC. He was on a 6-fight winning streak, which was snapped by Mark Hunt via KO/TKO in the 4th round, where his back or his cardio gave out. Derek Lewis said it was his back. It looked like his cardio. His coach took pictures of him like eating barbecue backstage, so it could have been his cardio. Who knows with Derek Lewis, but he was on a 6-fight winning streak in the heavyweight division, which is very, very, very impressive, especially in the heavyweight division. So you can never count Derek Lewis out. I've been seeing his training leading up to this fight. He's been fucking training super hard. He's supposed to be healthy, and, healing his back up. He pulled out of his last fight versus, I believe it was supposed to be versus Fabricio. He had that back injury. So Derek Lewis, I think he's going to be healthy, healed up, and he's got more UFC experience in this fight. He's fighting at home. Also, he's fought higher level competition, and this is only a 3-round fight, so cardio won't be an issue for Derek Lewis. I see Derek Lewis getting back to his winning ways and getting a big win here, for much needed win versus Marcin Tybura. And it's only a much needed win. It's not like Derek Lewis has just been taking a bunch of L's in the octagon, but outside of the octagon, with the ribs and the cardio and the pulling out of the fight last minute, people have just been like, come on, Derek, you know what I'm saying? But in the octagon, he's only lost one of his last 6-7 fights. So Derek Lewis, if he gets this win, I think, it'll be good for the heavyweight division and Derek Lewis, who I'm a fan of, which a lot of people are. He's a fan favorite. So let's get to the main event. Another fight where I came into this before I did the research. I thought I was going to be picking Yancy Medeiros to win. But after doing the research, I'm going with Donald Cerrone, who really, really needs the win. Donald Cerrone's the 11th ranked welterweight on the planet right now. 19-7 in the UFC. Donald Cerrone's overall record 32-10. Super, experienced dude. Been fighting for the UFC forever. 19 wins in the UFC alone. Donald Cerrone's got as many UFC wins as Yancy Medeiros has overall. Yancy Medeiros, I believe, is 19-4, or even I'm sorry, Yancy Medeiros is 15-4, so he's got 19 professional fights. Donald Cerrone has as many fights in the UFC as Yancy Medeiros has professional fights. So, I mean, that's another interesting fact. But Donald Cerrone is 4-4 in his last 8 fights. He's riding a 3-fight losing streak, most recently being KO'd in the first round by Darren Till. That's Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Yancy Medeiros is 6-2 in his last 8 fights, riding a 3-fight winning streak. So, Donald Cerrone 3-fight losing streak, Yancy Medeiros 3-fight winning streak. Yancy Medeiros most recently Yancy Medeiros most recently KO'd, knocked out Cowboy Oliveira. So Yancy Medeiros went from fighting one Cowboy, beating him and knocking him out, and arguably fight of the year. Now he's fighting the next Cowboy. And Donald Cowboy Cerrone is the better Cowboy, as they have fought in the past. Cowboy versus Cowboy, Donald Cerrone came out on top with the submission. So now Yancy Medeiros could, become the Cowboy killer in this fight. If he beats Cowboy Oliveira, then beats Cowboy Cerrone, hey, it's just very interesting. That's essentially what I thought was going to happen. But then I did the research. Now, Yancy Medeiros, yes, he's 6-2 in his last 8 fights, and he's riding a 3-fight winning streak. So, if momentum, which it is a thing, but if momentum matters in fights, then Yancy Medeiros will win this fight, because he's riding a 3-fight winning streak. He's got momentum on his side, and Donald Cerrone's 3-fight losing streak is the opposite. He's fucking tilting, if anything, you know what I'm saying? But as a professional fighter, Donald Cerrone, I'm expecting to be able to get in there and not let momentum, momentum can be mental. Momentum can be mental. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's real. He's got a winning streak. He's gonna be confident coming into the fight. But at the same time, you ain't gotta be scared to get your ass kicked. You ain't gotta have momentum to win a fight. So with that being said, momentum is on Yancy Medeiros' side, but hey, it is what it is. Now, Cowboy's on a 3-fight losing streak, Yancy on the 3-fight winning streak, coming off of Fight of the Year contender, which was a war. Cerrone's been losing and winning, though, against higher level guys than Yancy. Cerrone's losses came to Masvidal, Lawler, and Till. You know what I'm saying? Medeiros, he beat Cowboy Oliveira, but his 2 wins before that weren't really as high of competition. So Donald Cerrone, before his losing streak, was beating the Matt Browns of the world, and and other guys that are high level, ranked top 15 ranked UFC fighters. So with that being said, Donald Cerrone's been losing and beating higher level competition than Yancy Medeiros. Got a lot more experience. Yancy Medeiros is also coming off of that war, you know what I'm saying? It was just in December, Fight of the Year. Arguably, they didn't win Fight of the Year, but it did earn Yancy Medeiros this opportunity. So now Yancy Medeiros can either win and move to a 4-fight winning streak and move into the ranked, top 15, or he can lose, and Donald Cerrone can get this much needed win, which is what I'm predicting to happen. So, Yancy Medeiros is coming off of a war with a guy that Donald Cerrone submitted in the first round. Now, anything can happen in this fight. Yancy could become the Cowboy killer and continue his spectacular run, which has earned him 2 bonuses and a ranked opponent. Or Cowboy could reverse his luck and pick up the much needed win in the main event in front of his home crowd. But I'm taking Cerrone, man, to get back to his winning ways. Donald Cerrone has taken some losses, but people are acting like Donald Cerrone is just fucking out the door, a shell of himself, gonna be retired. He's just been fighting fucking top 10 welterweights, top 15 welterweights in his last 3 fights. Guy coming up from lightweight. So Donald Cowboy Cerrone's a hell of a fighter. But things just haven't been going his way. But he'll fight anyone, anytime, anywhere. And he's going to be fighting in the main event of Austin versus Yancy Medeiros. And I don't know if he's the underdog or the favorite, but I'm picking Donald Cowboy Cerrone to come in and end that losing streak and get the big motherfucking W at UFC Austin. So let the full-time family know what you think in the comments. I'm out.
Da 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 da! It's the motherfucking DOWG!